Welcome back. Some time ago, Ghana's President Mahama said Nigeria's long list of trade prohibitions has stunted regional growth, regional trade, and by extension frustrated economic integration in the sub-region. What are your views on protectionism? For
Nigeria, I think we owe it to ourselves to encourage policies that would allow the country to be strong, because a failed Nigeria is a failed West Africa. And I know one can be very specific as to which particular areas we've been having this form of protection or trade barriers. But for us here in Nigeria, I'm answering in a very, very general term now, being very generic, that I think that we need to do things that help us as a nation to grow our industries. We're a huge population. We import so much, and our ability to produce and be self-sustaining has got to be the primary aim of government today. We are not earning and will not be earning as much foreign exchange as before. So anything we do that can allow our internal capacity to grow and to enhance that is what I would support that the government should do. Now, having said that, it should never really be to the detriment of the region, but at the same time, it cannot be to our own detriment as well. And finally, we need to have a long-term view. Like I said, if we have a strong Nigeria, a strong Nigerian economy from any sector, any which way you want to look at it, I think it is always going to be good for West Africa.
To get the strong economy that we know we're capable of getting, we need power. Many people have thought that unbundling the power sector to smaller private firms was going to bring the improvements that we all sought fairly quickly, but that's not been the case. What exactly is wrong in your opinion?
The first thing that is right is the unbundling, because I think that we've spent too long a time trying to hold on to something the government never really had the capacity to deal with. So I think the whole concept of unbundling is right. It's a step in the right direction. The second thing is that it's a time-bound issue. I always say that when you've spent about 40, 50 years destroying a system, it's so difficult to expect things to turn up in 4 months or a year. You need more time. And we need to also sort of segment this so that we don't use a generic term of power. You've got to generate power, which has its own challenges in terms of gas supply, in terms of the location of the generating capacity itself, those that have taken on that challenge of generating power. It's a whole myriad of problems that you've got to face there. There's a transmission issue, which I understand that the new government is going to now try and put into private hands. Because in the past, we've privatized generation, and those who are there, they really need to make their return on investment. So they're not going to mess about and not try as much as possible to generate power. We've privatized the distribution end, whereby they've got to go out there and the last mile and make sure that they provide the power and they collect the money. But the most important link, which is the transmission, lies in the hands of government. And again, I believe, fairly or unfairly, that it's a rather inefficient system at this point in time, and we might need to relook at the structure in terms of the ownership and see how we can privatize this as well and sell it off and see, again, where we hand it over to people who must make a good return on investment, and therefore that system must work. But, you know, everybody wants power to work. Those who have invested in it feel that it's there is no alternative to it working out. But there seem to be so many things that stand in the way. When you begin to get very granular about it and you listen to people have conversations on this, they talk about gas supply, they talk about destruction of pipelines, they talk about the fact that even some aspects of the system is being disturbed by government. We have situations, I can't remember the specific plants that are actually ready, and I understand that all we need is for the government to actually approve certain generating plants. And that hasn't happened.
It's been estimated that about $3 trillion is required to close Nigeria's infrastructure gap over the next 30 years. And this no doubt will mean more public-private partnerships. How can risk sharing in the current PPP framework be improved?
I think, again, you've got to choose the projects very carefully. Anybody that wants to engage on a public-private partnership basis got to, obviously, we've got to assume that the feasibility is being done and it makes sense to provide that facility, and one in which you can generate revenue from it. There's always this challenge to government, is to say there's a limit to what it is that you want me as a consumer to pay for, especially when I assume that it is a kind of service that you should provide. Beyond that, there's the idea that, look, government, you can accelerate this whole process by participating in a way that is non-obstructive. The whole process of approvals, of getting certificates and being able to facilitate it has got to be one in which the government is actually leading the way. Before you need anything, it's done, because the government says it's very, very important that we do these things together. And so I'm saying that for public-private partnership, the investor or the partner will always come into this deal with his eyes wide open, because he does want return on investment. But it's always a case of what is the role of government in terms of its responsiveness and its readiness to be really supportive in the process. Sometimes there's a bit of a contradiction, because the leadership might want it, but in terms of the civil service structure and all the processes and bureaucracy that's involved, it tends to not be as responsive as one would expect.
At the opening of the last Nigerian Economic Summit, you asked the federal government to ensure that the report on the forensic investigation into missing oil funds is made public. Well, now it has been made public. But I note that in its introductory letter to the Auditor General of Nigeria, PwC stated that, and I quote, "The procedures performed did not constitute an examination or a review in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards or attestation standards." What does that caveat mean?
Well, I think the bottom line is that we really couldn't do what it is we wanted to do, because the organization we wanted to carry out this exercise with did not allow us to do all that we wanted to do.
So this was not a forensic audit in the real sense of it?
A forensic audit would allow you to sort of delve into any area, anywhere where you feel there is an issue. If I come in and just conduct a normal audit and want to verify whether your books of accounts represent a true and fair view, there's a standard process you go through. When you say it's a forensic means that there's an issue or problem that I need to delve into and resolve, and to find out why a certain situation exists. And if in doing that I don't have the cooperation, the opportunity to ask in a boundless way all the data and information that I require, so that I walk out of that exercise and I'm saying I don't feel confident that I've done a good job, then there is an issue.
So really that's what that caveat said?
As far as I'm concerned, that's what I feel it implies.
But people are brandishing this report. You know, PwC have done the audit and there's no, well, it's just about $1.something billion missing, or not accounted for, or not remitted. You once worked for PwC when there were Coopers and Lybrand International. Is their stamp on that audit enough guarantee that indeed there was nothing amiss?
Well, I think to the extent that they have given you those provisos, yes. To the extent that they've said, well, for what we've looked at and for what we've been allowed to look at, and for all the questions and responses we've been given and the things that we could see, this is where we stand, and that we can sign to. You know, it's if you ask me to investigate a particular situation, and within that process certain areas happen to be no-go areas, or certain responses were just not forthcoming, I'll say, yes, I've done this job, but by the way, out of the 15 sections I had to look at, I can verify the 10 that I've looked at, but the other 5, I will verify that I cannot verify what has been done.
I hear that many Nigerian graduates are unemployable. What can we do to revamp our educational system in order to develop a workforce that will be able to drive the development of the Nigerian economy?
What Nigeria needs most today is a workforce that can use its hands. We want to build the nation, and the building of this nation is really a physical activity more than an intellectual activity. The intellectual part of it, I believe we've done a lot of work in terms of reports and strategies and various things that we need to do. If you look everywhere in agriculture, power, infrastructure, loads of reports, master plans and so on, they're all there. But the thing is, when it comes to execution, we do have a problem. And that problem is that we don't have enough people that can use their hands. A lot of our children, our youth, go into, get educated, whatever level you're talking about, but never really encouraged to learn to use their hands. And what do I mean by that? The ability for you to be technical, for you to be a plumber, a welder, a carpenter, a technician, a fabricator, somebody that actually helps to physically build the country. We all, for those of us that do travel the world, the things that we see around us that work, they exist because some people have actually built them. Some people have put them together. And if we don't begin to develop our capacity to do that, we really will not make progress. So if you look at the country today and you say, what do we need to do most? We say infrastructure. We need to, put infrastructure. We need to have railway systems and so on. The question you ask us is, well, okay, to do these things and hope we do get people who want to participate and help to fund us in that process, who's going to actually do the work? Who is going to be there to do the work? So we turn around and look at our youth and say that, are we encouraging them to learn skills, professions that would make them employable in the future? And I think we really need to ask this. And part of the reason why maybe they don't go into that direction is we don't put enough dignity into the type of labor that we're encouraging them to go into. When you go around the world, when you go to people that construct, that put Boeing jets together, women that work in factories and do your iPhones and so on, these are people that learn to use their hands, and they just miss the whole idea. So when we keep talking about our employment, our unemployment, and our youth, there's a whole bunch of work and jobs that's available for which we don't have the right skills or the people that have the right skills to do them. I could probably show you 1 million jobs available, maybe I exaggerate a bit, a lot of jobs available, and the same number of people that are jobless, and yet if they were able to convert, they were able to deal with it. So that for me is one area that we really need to look into. We need to enhance and build up our vocational skills and capability. We don't have a choice. Otherwise, we will all continue to talk grammar, which is what we're all good at in offices, and find that the people that really need to get their hands dirty and do these things, they will just not exist, or they will be of the wrong quality and type.
Mr. Foluso Phillips, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching. Please join us next time when View from the Top returns. But between now and then, let's continue this conversation online at channelstv.com. Do follow me on Twitter at ModellySY, and let's share thoughts on today's program and others that we might have transmitted in the past. We thank you again, and I wish you a wonderful day.